I'm Susan from Tarjac. You may know us as the source for the best camo for your guns and bows, but we do so much more. Our custom work with automotive parts can transform any vehicle, our ATVs, sleds, four-wheelers, motorcycles. We've received national recognition for our work with Orange County Choppers, and we are most proud of our partnership with the future servicemen by providing customized helmets for the Army-Navy game. From the national stage to your favorite hunting ground, it's Tarjac.
Hello and welcome to the CNY Business Connection. I'm Jason Weinstein. Coming up on this week's show, should solar energy power you, plus what early exposure to entrepreneurship can mean to a future business leader. But we'll begin with the latest in business news from around the area. The unemployment rates across much of New York declined in March according to figures released by the State Department of Labor. In the Binghamton area, the unemployment rate was 8.4% in March, down from 9% in February and 9.5% a year ago. The unemployment rate in Syracuse was 8.3%, down from 8.9% in February and 9.1% a year ago. And in the Utica-Rome area, the unemployment rate was 8.6%, down from 9.1% in February and 8.7% a year ago. State labor analyst Christian Harris says despite those figures, the number of people actually working dropped by 500 in the past year in the Binghamton area.
What we want to see is minus unemployed, essentially the count of unemployed, and an equivalent increase in employed. Right now we're seeing declines in both. More than likely it points to a discouraged workforce to a degree that's just dropping out of the labor force.
Thanks in large part to steady jobs at Cornell University, Tompkins County had the state's lowest March unemployment rate, 5.4%.
When things like this happen, we want to learn from it and put those lessons to good use.
Chesapeake Energy, along with the DEP and emergency services in Towanda County, are meeting together to handle a leak in the natural gas drilling pad site in Leroy Township, Pennsylvania.
We're continuing to monitor the well as we get equipment set up, and our well control specialists are going to make decisions the appropriate decisions at the appropriate times.
A malfunction in equipment used for hydrofracking caused drilling water to leak on the site. Grove says there is no leak in the well and water is safe for local residents to drink, but that doesn't keep some of them from worrying.
My kids play here all summer long. We go down and catch crayfish, and they like to wade in the water when it's hot in the summertime, so we spend a lot of time down there.
Henry Chamberlain worries that the fracking water will seep into the streams nearby, but other residents don't see a problem.
I'm not the least bit stressed or concerned or anything else. I figure they know what they're doing.
Joyce Hare trusts Chesapeake Energy, even with the site right in front of her home.
But as far as being concerned about the fracking, there's a well right behind me, right there. They will start fracking there in just a couple days.
And you haven't felt unsafe or anything ever?
Not at all. Not at all.
Hare says that Chesapeake Energy has checked their drinking water and everything is fine, but Township Supervisor Ted Tomlinson says to give it time.
Locally here, our groundwater is so saturated, the ground is so saturated that it could take a long time for that to seep in, clear down to where the wells are.
But Hare still isn't worried. After all, she says there's not much else you can do about it.
Because it's here to stay. We can't be dependent on foreign oil and gas and whatever.
Environmental regulators in Pennsylvania are demanding to know what's in the fracking fluid that gushed out of a gas well after an equipment failure. Some of that fluid, described as brine water by the drilling company, made its way into Towanda Creek. In addition to wanting more details on the fluid, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection has cited the gas well's developer, Chesapeake Energy, with violating the Clean Streams Law, the Solid Waste Management Act, and the Oil and Gas Act. Furthermore, the DEP is questioning Chesapeake's choice of contractors to get the well back under control. It took until 12 hours after the blowout for the company hired Boots and Coots to begin work. The DEP contends that other companies could have responded faster. Chesapeake has until the middle of this week to answer the violations. About half of New York City's drinking water comes from the Delaware River watershed, part of which could be opened to natural gas development, but not before a full environmental review if New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman gets his way. The Attorney General vowed to sue the federal government unless the EPA and other agencies promise within 30 days to study the impact of horizontal drilling and fracking on water quality. If the Delaware River Basin Commission goes ahead with fracking, up to 18,000 gas wells could be drilled in the watershed. The votes have been counted, the judges have weighed in, and the result? Shenango Forks Jr. Stephanie Zimmel won not only her age group but also the $5,700 grand prize in this year's Heinz Ketchup Creativity Contest. This was her pop art design for ketchup packets that will also appear on a limited number of ketchup bottles.
It was just the pop art theme and the colors and everything in the Heinz logo, so they were happy with it and thought it would be a good marketing product.
Time. That's all Gary Ingram says he has since he lost his job 2 years ago.
I was pulled into the office one day and told that, pulled into actually into a conference room and told that my department was being dissolved and my position eliminated.
Ingram was 59 when he was let go by Cornell University, an age when many are thinking retirement, but not the former media production specialist. He's a member of an increasing population, older workers.
Since probably the 80s, more individuals in that age group participating in the labor force itself.
But unfortunately for people like Ingram, holding the same job for dozens of years doesn't promise job security, especially during a recession.
I feel the employers are not willing to look at people, despite maybe they have extensive experience in their field, they're not willing to look at people over a certain age.
A frustrating obstacle for someone trying to find a job. Broome Tioga Workforce New York says that discrimination does exist in some instances, but job seekers can't be discouraged when looking for work.
They need to be able to convince a future employer that I really want to work for you, and I can bring these traits and skills and experience and expertise to this new job.
The One-Stop Center on Front Street in Binghamton helps older job seekers update their resumes, brush up on interview techniques, and network. But above all, Stark says they need to be consistent. And knowing good things come to those who wait, Ingram believes his consistency will eventually pay off.
I know that something's going to happen for me eventually. I don't, it's hard for me to feel that all the time, and I know why people get discouraged and give up. I'm not going to give up.
We hope you enjoyed that. When we come back, high tunnel farming, what it means to the bottom line of some local farmers, plus what early exposure to entrepreneurship can mean to a future business leader.
I'm Norm Poltenson. I've published the Central New York Business Journal for 25 years. Our success is based on the fact that we know only one audience, owners and managers of businesses in Central New York. We publish stories for them, we don't offer sound bites, and we always source our information. Maybe technology's changed since I started publishing 25 years ago, but not our mission. You can always rely on the Central New York Business Journal providing your business news.
Welcome back. High tunnel farming, just what is it and what can it mean to the bottom line of some local farmers? Steve Craig has more.
Don't call it a greenhouse. This is a high tunnel, 12 feet high. Its only heat source, the sun. Sunny Hill Farm in Nanticoke put this one up last fall as part of a federal project.
The USDA had a grant program offering farmers the chance to erect a high tunnel, to do some research for them. Let's see what can we do to spread out our harvest windows and to increase our local and regional food supply.
The experiment is actually pretty simple. Grow the same crops inside the high tunnel as outside and then compare them. For example, this is what the spinach looks like that made it through the winter outside.
Pretty puny compared to the same crop grown under cover. But an early spring head start isn't the only thing a high tunnel is good for.
I was able to harvest lettuce and the spinach, mustard, and mizuna all the way till the end of December.
That meant planting seeds in the heat of late summer. something that often doesn't work outdoors with these cold-loving and wind-sensitive plants. But conditions in the high tunnel are controlled by cranking the sides up or down.
The wind is blocked, the sun is moderated, there's no insect pressure. I control the watering, and so they've grown beautifully, and I've had the crops to offer again in the fall months when I normally wouldn't have.
With the growing and selling season 50% longer, the high tunnel's practically paid for itself already. Now that's green. Down on the farm in Nanticoke,
Our thanks to Steve for that. Time now to turn things over to our friends at Prendismo.com, partnering with entrepreneurs for success. And this week's bit of business wisdom from someone who has lived it: what can early exposure to entrepreneurship mean to a future business leader?
My first entrepreneurial venture happened when I was 9. And it was actually forced upon me. My father was in the military, and my mother came to me. She said, "I have a surprise for you." And I was all excited. I thought it was a new toy. And she came with a shoe shine kit. And she said, what you're going to do is we're going to learn how to shine shoes. You're going to practice on your father's military boots. So I did. I said, okay, that's great. I said, no, we're not done. Now, and because we were on the base, now we're going to go from door to door, and you're going to develop a pitch. And she helped me work through this whole, little pitch, and I had my little kit. And it was interesting because the first door I knocked on, I was terrified. She made me go up to the door. She was obviously standing behind me, made me go to the door by myself, and I was terrified. And overcoming that initial fear after going through the first one and then seeing, oh, sure, you just, this cute little kid, he wants to shine, oh, sure, there's all these people at home needed boots. So from door to door, the next one got easier, and the next one, and the next one. And I began to enjoy it. It wasn't the money that was so exciting to me. It was just the fact that, look, I'm doing something of value here, and people are they're happy that I'm doing this for them. And I think that was sort of my first entrepreneurial experience. I had other ones, through middle school and high school. I had started my own sort of little company, and I think a lot of that was due to my parents and sort of my exposure. And I look at my daughter, she's 7 now, and when my wife asked her, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? She said, I want to be the boss. I want to have my own company.
We hope you enjoyed that. When we come back, solar energy, is it ready to power you?
I'm Norm Poultonson. I've published the Central New York Business Journal for 25 years. Our success is based on the fact that we know only one audience, owners and managers of businesses in Central New York. We publish stories for them, we don't offer sound bites, and we always source our information. Maybe technology's changed since I started publishing 25 years ago, but not our mission. You can always rely on the Central New York Business Journal providing your business news.
I'm Susan from Tarjac. You may know us as the source for the best camo for your guns and bows, but we do so much more. Our custom work with automotive parts can transform any vehicle, our ATVs, sleds, four-wheelers, motorcycles. We've received national recognition for our work with Orange County Choppers, and we are most proud of our partnership with the future servicemen by providing customized helmets for the Army-Navy game. From the national stage to your favorite hunting ground, it's Tarjac.
Welcome back. Is solar energy ready to power you? The head of ETM SolarWorks gives us a lesson on the present and future of solar energy.
A house-sized system to power your whole load might have somewhere between 20 and 30 of these.
The solar energy industry has changed a lot since Dr. Gay Cano founded ETM SolarWorks, at the time of its founding the only upstate New York company to provide solar energy services.
We put an ad in the Penny Saver to see if we could get some customers, and sure enough, there were people out there who had remote homes or weekend camps or cabins who wanted some electricity. So that was our first market, and it was fairly small.
But in the late 90s, New York State allowed people to get solar energy as part of the grid and for net metering, or the ability to sell back unused solar energy to the utility provider. Add to that NYSERDA grants, education, and outreach since the early 2000s, and current state and federal tax credit for solar, and there has been a lot of momentum toward the industry.
But it's growing, and it's been growing in spite of the economic downturn. In 2009, while lots of other businesses were shrinking, the solar industry overall grew on the order of 10%.
The cost of photovoltaic modules has decreased greatly over the past 5 years, lowering solar costs. Technology has also made solar more efficient.
I'd say that hasn't really helped lower the cost so much. In fact, those more efficient ones tend to be a little more expensive. But if you really want to maximize watts per square foot, that is happening. I think in the sort of the technology arena, one of the things that's helping lower cost is just the skill in manufacturing. The manufacturers are becoming very good at what they do. If you're on a budget, you can start with one of those panels and one inverter. This is the inverter that converts the direct current from the solar module to alternating current. So that's going to generate about 1 kilowatt hour a day. And to give you an idea, I mean, most houses use somewhere between 10 and 15 kilowatt hours. So it's only going to supply a small part of your usage, but it's an easy way to get started and you can add on to it easily.
But the obvious question many central New Yorkers have when thinking about going solar is, does it make sense to do so in one of the least sunny regions of the country?
Germany is the world leader in solar energy. Now, the sunniest place in Germany has the same irradiance, the amount of sun, as Juneau, Alaska. Every place in New York has more sun than the sunniest place in Germany. And Germany is the world leader in deployment of solar.
So we have enough sun, but does solar save you enough money to make up for the initial investment?
Even in New York here, the economics are pretty good, especially as you go to larger systems. For small home systems, almost any kind of electricity generating system for a home is small, so economics are kind of so-so. If you bought a solar electric system for your home and you got, say, a home improvement loan, it's going to be something like 10 to 13 years before your loan payment is less than what you would be paying the utility. That's based on the idea that the utility rates are going up, and we know how much they go up per year, but we don't know how much they're going to go up in the future. One thing that solar electricity does for you is it protects you against fuel price spikes. If you look at how much you would have paid the utility in 30 years, it's 2 or 3 times the cost of a solar electric system. So even now, it's a pretty good deal.
But what does the future of the industry hold for solar businesses and consumers?
Even in New York, it's growing, it's creating jobs. We're installing more systems. Right now, we're enjoying some federal money. There is work going on to have a different kind of incentive, more of a performance-based incentive that could be more ongoing to gradually but consistently grow the industry and make it more accessible. And the more we do in New York, the cheaper it gets. And we want to have some incentive structures to allow for larger systems on, say, schools and municipalities and businesses, simply because that tends to drive down the cost and bring more solar power into the mix. And I've been here this long, and it's done nothing but get bigger and less expensive every single year.
And that does it for this episode of the CNY Business Connection. Thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, I'm Jason Weinstein. Have a good one.